Okay, let's dive into something truly fascinating today. When we think about weight loss, our minds often jump straight to diet plans, exercise routines, maybe willpower, right?
The usual suspects.
Exactly.
Mm.
But what if the most profound part, the most surprising part of the journey actually had very little to do with any of that? What if it was about, well, silence?
Ah, yeah.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into the insights of Dan Hollis. He's got this really unique voice, a pretty unconventional approach to weight loss.
That's absolutely our mission here. We're going to explore how Dan Hollis really challenges a lot of our common assumptions about losing weight, especially now, with new medical stuff like semaglutide making such a big impact.
Right, semaglutide, for anyone not familiar, maybe quickly explain what that is.
Sure. It's a medication. It mimics a hormone that basically talks to your brain, telling it you're not hungry, reducing cravings. So it often leads to, well, less desire for food. And our sources today, they're mostly Dan Hollis's own field notes, personal accounts he's gathered. It gives us this really intimate look at his philosophy, which, as you'll hear, it's much less about the scale and way more about, like, your internal world.
And that's key, isn't it? This isn't about pushing any specific diet or even the drugs themselves, really.
Not at all.
It's about these huge emotional shifts, maybe even identity shifts that happen when food's role in your life just changes dramatically. So our goal here is to pull out those crucial nuggets of knowledge. What actually happens when that constant background noise, the cravings, just stops, and what Hollis calls the real work can finally begin.
Yeah, the real work.
So going through these sources, this one idea kept popping up, and it's the kind of thing that really makes you pause. The most surprising thing about weight loss, particularly for folks using medications like semaglutide, it isn't always the weight coming off.
Right. Although that happens.
Of course.
Yeah.
But it's the cravings that just evaporate. They don't show up. And it leaves this silence that, honestly, most people are totally unprepared for.
Oh, completely. And we see this so clearly in one example, Kate. She's a 46-year-old mother, 2 months into using semaglutide.
Okay.
Physically, everything's going the right way. 7 pounds down, side effects minimal, blood sugar improving, all the good stuff.
Sounds like success.
On paper, yes, but emotionally, she said she felt like a ghost in her own kitchen.
Wow. A ghost.
Yeah. And the source describes this moment. She walks past her pantry, and for the first time in like 20 years, she said nothing reached back.
Nothing reached back. That's powerful phrasing.
Isn't it? No pull, no urge, no little whisper saying grab a snack, just quiet. Unsettling quiet.
That does sound unnerving if you're not expecting it. So how does Hollis talk about that initial feeling of being lost almost? Because it sounds tough.
He has such a great way of framing it. He calls it the quiet window.
The quiet window.
Okay. He says, that's the moment where the food stops answering your questions and the real ones start talking.
So the silence isn't empty, it's just filled with different questions now.
Exactly. And it highlights this really profound, often unspoken emotional challenge that comes up in that quiet. He talks about the grief of losing the thing that numbed you.
Grief. Even if that thing, the food, was causing problems.
Yeah, even if it was, unraveling your life in some ways, because it was familiar, it was a constant, it numbed things. And now there's this void, this silence, and you have to face what was underneath.
So it's not just about missing the food itself, it's deeper. What did Kate say about how that actually felt inside?
Her description is really vivid. She said she didn't miss the taste or the act of eating so much. It was the signal she missed, the rhythm, the old story she told herself, which was something like, at least I know how to feel full.
Control, in a way. Or perceived control.
Sort of, yeah. She used words like feeling weird, like her house was too quiet, or her brain felt like a library after hours, just still.
A library after hours. That's evocative.
And the core thing for her was, she said, it's not that I'm sad, it's just that everything feels like truth now.
Truth? Wow. Like the static cleared.
Exactly. Suddenly she could hear her own thoughts, her own feelings, without the food noise interfering.
Okay, so that unsettling quiet, this truth emerging,
Yeah.
it leads right to the next question. What do you do with that?
Right.
And that's exactly where Dan Hollis says his real work begins. Not when the pounds drop or the lab numbers look good,
No.
but precisely when the person sitting opposite him begins to hear the echoes of all the years they used food to muffle the deeper questions. That's his cue.
That's the starting line for him. And those deeper questions, the sources list some of them. Things like, what am I hungry for when I'm not hungry?
Ooh, good one.
Yeah. Or who am I without the chase? You know, the constant cycle of craving, eating, feeling guilty, repeat. What's left when the noise goes?
Heavy questions.
Definitely. And the crucial thing to grasp about Hollis is he's not offering pep talks. He's not about just, try harder.
No willpower lectures.
No, he offers scaffolding. That's his term. He makes this distinction really clear. Not motivation, but momentum. Not restriction, but recognition.
Scaffolding.
Yeah.
Like building support around something new.
Exactly. It's about building a new structure, a new way to operate now that the old one, centered around food, is quiet.
So in this view, semaglutide isn't the solution itself. It just clears the runway so you can finally see what's trying to land. That's a great analogy from the notes.
It really is. It helps you see what's actually going on beneath the surface.
And we see this playing out with Kate, right?
Yeah.
Beyond that initial shock of silence, the shifts were subtle, but profound.
Very subtle.
Like one Wednesday, she felt sad, but she didn't automatically reach for snacks.
Yeah.
A Thursday, she opted for tea instead of pouring a second glass of wine.
Small choices.
Tiny choices. But then, a Sunday walk. Not for exercise per se, but because, as she put it, it felt like a conversation with her future self.
Oh, that's lovely.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the sources emphasize, she's not done, she's not fixed, she's not suddenly a new woman. But the key is, she's here, in the quiet, listening.
Listening, that's the core of it.
It seems like it's just about being present in that quiet space.
That's exactly what Dan Hollis calls the real protocol, being present in the quiet.
Yeah.
Listening. So the message here for anyone listening who might be feeling that unsettling quiet when a craving doesn't hit.
Yeah.
Or if that stillness just feels weird, unnerving, you're not broken, Hollis would say you're just beginning to hear yourself again. Welcome to the quiet window. And importantly, you're not alone here. Many people experience this.
That's a really comforting message. Okay, so being present in the quiet is step one. But what happens next? What about when someone like Kate, navigating this new space, hits a bump, has a setback, perceives a failure?
Ah, yes. Failure. The big F word in weight loss.
Right. It often feels like the end of the road.
Yeah.
But that leads us to another really powerful teaching from Dan Hollis. How he completely reframes failure. He takes it from being this sorts of, crushing shame.
Deep shame.
And turns it into a source of valuable insight. Information, even.
It's a radical reframe, honestly. Imagine if every time you failed, instead of beating yourself up, you saw it as a message, like a personalized note just for you, telling you what needs attention.
Okay, tell me more.
That's Hollis's view. His core insight is, failure isn't the end. It's a message, a moment of feedback. And sometimes, he says, it's the most honest conversation you'll ever have with yourself.
Honest conversation, not a sign of weakness.
Exactly. He sees it like a data point, something clinical almost. Something to observe, learn from, build on, not a reason to throw in the towel.
So, if you slip back into an old eating habit.
He'd say that's not you being weak or betraying your goals. It's your brain asking for the old familiar rhythm. It's seeking comfort in what it knows. And just ignoring that signal, trying to power through with willpower alone. He says that leads to fracture. It breaks something internally.
Fracture. That's a strong word. It implies damage from ignoring the signal, not from the slip-up itself.
Precisely. Which leads to this really critical warning he gives. He says, most people aren't failing semaglutide. They're failing to prepare for what comes after it.
Oh, that's huge. So the breakdown isn't about the medication failing or the person failing.
No, it's often a signal that the support system around them, the scaffolding we talked about, needs reinforcing. It's not about personal weakness.
That shifts the focus entirely, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Away from self-blame.
Completely. He introduces this idea that setbacks are actually sacred if you're willing to look at them with curiosity instead of judgment.
Sacred. Wow.
Huh.
That's a very different lens.
It is, he puts it bluntly. The shame isn't in failing. The shame is in pretending you were supposed to be perfect.
Oof. Yeah, that hits home.
And grace, he argues, isn't about letting yourself off the hook. It's built by reaching for a better tool, a different approach, instead of reaching for blame when you stumble. It's constructive.
So when you do have that misstep, that moment you might label failure, what does he suggest you actually do?
He encourages you to ask yourself a really key question. What story am I telling myself about this failure?
Okay.
And is that story helping me become who I want to be? It's about examining that internal narrative. Is it a story of defeat, Or as a story of learning, of getting valuable data for the next step? You get to choose the story.
Giving yourself agency back in that moment. I like that.
It's proactive. So ultimately, the big takeaway from Hollis is that this whole weight loss journey, especially with tools like semaglutide, it's not just about calories in, calories out, or GLP-1 receptor.
It's much bigger.
Much bigger. It's about learning to listen to the silence, as he says, and then, crucially, designing a new life, building new systems where food isn't your primary or maybe even your only coping tool.
And that really explains why sometimes people struggle after losing weight, doesn't it? Even with medication helping.
Absolutely. He says it's often not that the drug stopped working, it's that no one helped them rewrite the rituals that define their identity.
Rewrite the rituals, so the habits and patterns that were built around food.
Exactly. He frames semaglutide not as the solution, but as a pause, a breather, a reset. It creates the space, that quiet window, to actually design a new system.
So it's an opportunity, a tool to enable change, not the change itself.
Precisely. Which connects to that common feeling people have about losing control around food. Hollis flips that script, too.
How so?
He says you didn't lose control, you lost connection.
Connection.
Yeah, connection to your hunger cues, connection to your purpose, connection to yourself. That's what we help you rebuild.
So it's about reconnecting, not just restricting or controlling.
Exactly. And he stresses, fast results don't automatically mean lasting results. The number on the scale doesn't tell you anything about self-trust, resilience, or connection.
Right. The scale doesn't measure the internal scaffolding.
Not at all. And his warning is stark. If you don't actively plan for life during and after using something like semaglutide, it will plan for you. Meaning the old patterns will likely creep back in eventually if new ones aren't consciously built.
That makes sense. He also touches on the idea of semaglutide being cheating, which you hear sometimes. How does he tackle that?
He sees it not as cheating, but as adaptation, using a tool that's available. He flips it again, saying the real cheat was pretending willpower was enough all along, when for many people, biology makes that incredibly difficult.
That's a powerful reframe, too. Takes the moral judgment out of it.
Completely. And he emphasizes that every pound lost, every craving quieted means a habit, a ritual, a coping mechanism needs to be consciously replaced, not just removed. You can't just leave a void.
Because nature abhors a vacuum, right? Something will fill it.
Exactly. He says, biology might give you a head start, but only identity keeps you moving. You have to build that new identity, those new habits.
Identity? It keeps coming back to who you are beyond the food behaviors.
Which leads to his powerful summary statement. You don't hold on to weight loss with discipline. You hold on to it with alignment.
Alignment, meaning?
Meaning aligning your choices, your thoughts, your systems, your environment with the person you want to be, the life you want to live, now that the food noise is quieter. Healing, in this context, isn't loud or dramatic. It's quiet. It's intentional. It's the slow layering of new choices, new thoughts, and new systems, all built during that sacred window that semaglutide creates.
Slow layering, building resilience piece by piece.
Precisely. And the ultimate lesson, maybe the most profound one from Hollis, is that this journey isn't about becoming someone completely different. It's about finally having the space to become yourself. The self that was maybe buried under all the noise.
Wow. Okay, what an incredible deep dive into Dan Hollis's work. It really feels like his teachings offer this profound shift, moving way beyond just the physical side of weight loss into, well, the deeply personal, the emotional core of it all.
It really does. It highlights the massive significance of that quiet window he talks about. And, the brave work involved in actually listening to what comes up when those old comforts, that old noise, starts to fade away.
Yeah, brave is the right word.
And this deep dive really shows us how challenges, even things we might see as failures, aren't dead ends. They can actually be the very things that spark real, lasting transformation if we approach them differently.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. As you navigate your own quiet moments, whether that's related to health or something else entirely. What new stories are you ready to tell about yourself, especially when you're faced with an unexpected, maybe even uncomfortable, quiet?